I never imagined that a chance encounter with a millionaire would change my life forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced, a steady thump echoing in my ears. The cafe was packed, laughter and chatter buzzing all around me. But I sat alone, staring at my half-empty coffee cup like it held the answers to my life's questions. Cracks had begun to show in my carefully structured world, and I felt like an outsider in my own skin. I could feel my hands trembling as I sorted through my past, the disappointment in my parents' eyes, the endless bills piling on my kitchen table, the nagging ache of unfulfilled dreams. As the door swung open with a soft jingle, a chill ran down my spine, clearing the fog of my despair. He walked in, a stunning man clad in a tailored navy suit that seemed to whisper power and secrets. His sharp jawline caught the light, and for a brief moment, time stood still. There was something magnetic about him, like he pulled in the very air around him. I couldn't place why, but he sent shivers down my spine. I watched as he ordered an impossibly expensive drink, something exotic I could barely pronounce. My heart raced. Who was this man? A millionaire? No way. The thought made me dizzy. What was he doing here, in this small cafe filled with ordinary folks? The bustling crowd suddenly fell silent in my mind. All I could focus on was him, the scent of rich cologne lingering in the air. His gaze moved towards me. I could feel his eyes piercing through the chaos. My heart thudded, blushing warmth creeping across my cheeks. Why would he even look my way? My thoughts were a tangle, each one wrapped in a new fear. Does he see my struggles? My worries? Or was he just another rich man completely unaware of how the other half lived? I couldn't look away. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown. I felt drawn to him, as if an invisible string tethered my fate to his, pulling me against my will. Just as I was about to turn away, he smiled, a brief but intense flash of white teeth that lit up his face. It felt like electricity jolting through my chest, igniting something deep within me, a flicker of hope? Or was it just an illusion? The moment shattered when a loud crash echoed, spilling coffee onto the floor, pulling me back to reality. The world blinked back into view, the cafe buzzing back to life as I tried to steady my breath. This was absurd. Why was I letting myself get lost in some fanciful daydream? But just as I turned to leave, as if the universe was aligning, he stepped forward. His deep voice cut through the clamor. "Excuse me, is that seat taken?" Those words hung in the air like a promise, and my breath caught. The world around us faded, muted by the sudden intensity of the moment. What came next was more than I could ever have imagined, a conversation that twisted fate like a vine around a tree, connecting lives in ways I never anticipated. My heart raced with both fear and excitement. What did he want with me? Was this just a chance meeting, or was it something more? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The next few weeks unfolded like a beautiful melody intertwined with an ache I could not shake, the notes both uplifting and melancholic. Our conversations in the cafe turned into explorations of the city, each outing revealing layers of vulnerability I hadn't expected. He spoke about his past, weaving tales of humble beginnings and hard-fought battles, while I shared the heavier burdens of my life. The more I learned about him, the harder it became to reconcile the vast gulf between our worlds. I found myself in unfamiliar territory, often brushing against shadows of my insecurity. As he recounted his childhood, filled with a fierce determination to rise above his circumstances, I battled with envy and admiration. But there was a reassuring warmth in his gaze, one that made me forget, at least for a moment, the weight of my own struggles. In those fleeting moments, I believed that perhaps dreams weren't restricted by income or social status. Yet, beneath the surface of our laughter and shared dreams, an invisible wall loomed between us and awareness that his life was orchestrated with abundance, while mine was a series of careful calculations. One evening, while we strolled along the river, I caught him staring at me with a furrowed brow. "You don't really see yourself as I see you, do you?" he asked softly, his voice a gentle caress against the tranquil backdrop of the water. I hesitated, my heart racing. "What do you mean?" I replied, avoiding the depths of his gaze. The doubt lingered thick in the air, unspoken fears swirling like fog around us. "You're more incredible than you give yourself credit for. You are a fighter," he insisted, his sincerity almost overwhelming. I laughed lightly but felt my defenses kicking in. "Incredible?" I repeated, my voice tinged with disbelief. The beginning of something daring fluttered in my chest, almost drowning beneath the weight of my history. After a brief silence, I exhaled the words I had bottled up for years. "I can barely keep up with my bills. I'm just surviving." An awkward pause stretched on, and guilt washed over my heart as I watched his expression dim. For a moment, anger flickered in his eyes, a fleeting glimpse of the world molded by privilege. Before it settled, he shook his head as if trying to dispel a cloud of frustration. "Then let me help you," he said, the offer heavy with uncertainty. "I can know," I interrupted, the vehemence of my response shocking us both. "I don't want your charity. I want to earn my future," I insisted, trembling with emotions I couldn't name, wishing to rip apart the barrier before us. My heart ached with equal parts longing and terror at the idea of relying on anyone else, not him. Not anyone. He stared at me, comprehension dawning. "It's not charity if it's mutual. An investment in your potential only bolsters you as you pursue your dreams." Our eyes locked for too long, and then, like a candle flame flickering under a gust of wind, something shifted, a fragile understanding that traversed our differences. But it didn't quell my doubts. When he finally took a step closer, I sensed the shift in our dynamic as fear recoiled deep within me. What was this? A friendship blossoming, or was it something more perilous? In the aftermath of our conversation, I withdrew. Days turned into silence, even as he continued reaching out with messages that burned my phone's screen with memories of warmth. I couldn't face the fear of being immersed in the world he represented. My self-preservation mechanism kicked in again, a need to retreat into what was familiar, even as I yearned for the warmth of his connection. Then came the day I was sifting through student loan notices, the usual dread washing over me, when a sudden knock on my door jolted me. I opened it to find a local delivery man holding a sizable bouquet of vibrant flowers. "Delivery for you," he said, an amused smile dancing on his lips as he presented it with a flourish. Confusion washed over me as I accepted the bouquet. The colors were dazzling, fragrant blooms that bore a small card that read, "Just thought you should know you're worth every dream you dare to chase." I stood there, flowers cradled in my arms, an emotional cocktail of gratitude and shame swirling through me. He was relentless in his kindness, and yet I felt so far from deserving it. It was a poignant reminder that while I fought the tide, he was reaching out, wanting to guide me forward. But as I placed the flowers on the table, my heart sank when the realization hit me. If I didn't face these challenges head-on, if I continued running away from the very thing that terrified me, I could lose him forever. Just as uncertainty began to gnaw at my resolve, a loud thud resounded from outside, followed by a shocked gasp from the street. Curious and anxious, I rushed to the window, my pulse racing. What I saw sent chills coursing through my veins. Jay lay sprawled on the pavement, unmoving, surrounded by a crowd gathering in horror. My stomach twisted into knots as panic surged through me. What had happened? The warmth of his words felt distant now, overshadowed by a chilling fear of something far beyond what I could comprehend. I turned from the window, harboring a new fight began welling up within me, but this time, it was not about dreams or aspirations. It was about the man who had become a beacon in my darkest hours. The world outside my window blurred, a kaleidoscope of distorted colors, as I staggered backward from the scene unfolding below. Jay's body lay still, surrounded by a cacophony of shouting voices and frightened faces, all scrabbling for clarity, while chaos encircled them like a tempest. My heart thundered relentlessly against my ribcage, each beat an urgent plea for him to be okay, for this to be nothing more than a cruel trick of fate. I tore myself away from the window, the flowers wilting momentarily in my grasp. My mind flickered through disturbing possibilities, playing every horrifying scenario like a looped reel. Without thinking, I darted toward the door, wrenching it open just as panic seized me completely. The cool evening air filled my lungs as I dashed down the stairs, ignoring the murmurs from neighbors peering curiously out their windows. "Move aside," I cried, pushing through the gathering crowd, my voice cutting through the horror like a lifeline. The throng parted just enough for me to reach him, my stomach coiling tighter with each step. He wasn't moving. Panic enveloped me, suffocating in its insistence. I knelt beside him, the shock of his stillness hitting me like an ice-cold tide. "Jay! Jay!" My voice trembled, the incredulity of the moment hanging heavily in the air. "Please, wake up." A woman nearby knelt beside me, her hands trembling as she reached for his neck. "Stay back," she shouted, her voice urgent yet soothing. "I'm a nurse. Just give me some room." The adrenaline surged anew as she barked orders, her brow furrowed in concentration. I nodded, feeling helpless yet desperate to do something, anything. People around us began to murmur soothing words, but they felt hollow against the weight of reality. My heart sank as Jay remained unmoving, his pulse the only thing I clung to in this tidal wave of fear. I inhaled sharply as conflicting thoughts raced through my mind, images of our laughter-filled conversations, the sincerity of his gaze when he spoke of dreams, and now this moment where all of it hung in the balance. Gradually, the ambulance sirens grew louder, slicing through the atmosphere of dread pervading the night. When the paramedics arrived, they took control with a siphoning efficiency that seemed almost surreal. Each action felt choreographed, each decision weighty, as they assessed J.S.'s condition and prepared to transport him. My breath was erratic. I couldn't skim the surface anymore. I needed to dive in deeper, to know he would be all right. Just as they slipped him onto a stretcher, a paramedic turned to me, eyes serious but compassionate. "Do you know him?" "Yes," I managed, my voice breaking with emotion. He's a friend." The uncertainty of our relationship hung heavily in the air. Friend, savior, or something unspoken. My heart was reeling. "Then you should come with us," the paramedic urged. "We don't know much yet, but it's best to keep him close." With a mix of determination and dread, I climbed into the ambulance, feeling the rush of air from the vehicle's interior steal away any warmth I once felt. Jay lay before me, vulnerability personified, and I brushed my fingers against his arm, desperately seeking a connection. "Please," I whispered, a prayer punctuated by my rising anxiety, "don't leave me." Jay. The paramedics worked methodically, checking vitals, and I watched helplessly, a spectator in a cruel drama that seemed too heavy for mere words to express. The city whizzed by, a blur of lights and sounds outside, but all I felt was the hollow ache of fear coiling tighter around my heart. Upon arrival at the hospital, we rushed through the sliding doors, the fluorescent lights stark and unrelenting. As they wheeled him away, I grasped at stray moments of bravery I had been working toward, feeling terribly small in this fractured world. "He'll be right here," I called out, but it felt like a futile promise, trapped behind the glass doors of uncertainty. Minutes stretched into hours, each tick of the clock a disorienting reminder of how quickly everything could change. I paced the waiting room, grappling with emotions that shifted like tides within me. Frustration collided with guilt as I thought back on our last conversations, all the moments I had pulled away, thinking I would shield us both from the vulnerability of connection. But what I really did was shut myself away, and now Jay lay somewhere behind those walls, fighting for his life. In the thick silence of the waiting room, I was surprised when a stranger approached, a tall man with anxious eyes. "Are you here for Jay?" he asked, his tone soft yet full of concern. I nodded, the small gesture heavy with the weight of my worry. "He's my brother," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "I heard the accident." I didn't know if shock rippled through me at his revelation. Jay had a brother? I didn't know he had family. The man hunched over as if the weight of unshared burdens threatened to crush him. "He's always been distant from us, ever since he started on his path." Without thinking, I reached out, instinctively drawn to share my own turmoil. I kept distancing myself too, thinking I was protecting us both from the truth of this world. As he looked at me, a flicker of understanding glimmered in his eyes. "You really care for him, don't you?" The question hung in the air, a mirror reflecting my fears back at me. My throat stumbled with emotion. "More than I realized," I admitted, the truth resonating within me like a new melody. But before I could elaborate, the heavy doors swung open. A doctor stepped forward, grave and gentle. "I need to speak with you both." The world tilted again, panic clawing at my insides. As we followed him into a quieter space, I steeled myself for whatever awaited us. I had fought so hard against making connections, and now, the thought of losing him silenced my heart. With the clock ticking and my breath hitching in my throat, I looked to the doctor, dread mingled with hope as he prepared to reveal the consequences of fate's cruel twist. The emotional cliff now loomed ahead of me, waiting to shatter the fragile semblance of hope I clung to. The room felt confining as the doctor gestured for us to sit. My heart raced, a primal instinct urging me to flee, while also betraying me with an insatiable need to know. The brother beside me clutched the edge of the chair like a lifeline, his knuckles white in the fluorescent light. "Jay has sustained significant injuries," the doctor began, his tone steady but burdened with the weight of the news he bore. "He is currently stable, but his condition is serious. We're doing everything we can, but he's not out of the woods yet." Each word crashed over me like waves, reshaping the landscape of my emotions. "Stable," I kept repeating in my mind, hoping the word would solidify into something tangible and anchored. I met the brother's gaze, finding solace in his shared despair. There was something intimate in our collective worry, a silent understanding rooted deeply in our concern for someone we both cared about. "What kind of injuries?" I blurted, needing specifics, wanting to arm myself with knowledge in the face of such uncertainty. The physician adjusted his glasses, his voice laced with compassion. "A concussion, multiple fractures, and some internal bleeding. He needs time. And there's a chance potential complications could arise." A thick lump lodged itself in my throat again. I felt caught in a pulling tide between hope and fear. Every detail felt like a strand ready to unravel at any moment. The brother sat rigid beside me, the agony of anticipation etched across his face. "Can we see him?" he asked, desperately, his eyes pleading for even a moment in his brother's presence. The doctor hesitated just long enough for me to catch a flicker of worry. "He currently in surgery. I'd advise against having too many visitors at once, but once he's coherent, we'll allow you in." I closed my eyes, trying to ground myself in that moment, drawing in a shuddering breath. Compassion washed over me as I turned to the brother. "I'm so sorry this is happening. I didn't know." He nodded, his eyes moist with unspent tears. "We haven't spoken in so long," he confessed, his voice a whisper pained with regret. "I always thought there would be time. I didn't want to push him. It was easier to let things sit, Anguish swirled between USA's shared recognition of how quickly time could slip away if we let our fears reign. Sometimes we protect ourselves from the truth, forgetting that connection is the only thing that might preserve us, I offered, surprised by the depth of my words. It was a sentiment I had failed to live by until this momentous revelation catalyzed by the fear of losing Jay. I was reminded of our last moments together, the distance I had chosen to put between us, consumed by my own insecurities. But here, in this sterile space, I was awakened to how precious our bonds truly are, even the fragile threads woven by uncertainty. As the minutes stretched, the hospital's sterile sounds faded into a rhythm of worry. Suddenly, the door opened, and a nurse stepped in, her eyes scanning the waiting room until they locked onto us. "Jay is out of surgery. He's stable, but he's still unconscious," she relayed, her voice akin to sunlight breaking through clouds. "You can see him now for a few minutes." A rush of adrenaline surged through me, leaving little time to process what I was feeling. Encouraged by the brother's nod, I rose, ready to face whatever lay beyond those intimidating doors. The hallway felt like a labyrinth, each step heavy with hope and trepidation. I followed the nurse down to the recovery room, where the shadows seemed to thicken around us, creating an atmosphere fraught with unspoken fears. The curtain swayed slightly as the nurse pulled it back, revealing Jay, frail and bruised but still unmistakably there. My breath caught, tears burning the back of my eyes as I took him in. Monitors beeped steadily beside the bed, a stark reminder of the fragility of his existence. I stepped forward, feeling the brother's anxious presence beside me. "Hey, Jay," I whispered, instinctively reaching for his hand, the warmth of his skin grounding me in that moment. "It's me. I'm here." But he lay unmoving, the rhythmic rise and fall of his chest the only indication that he was still with us. The brother's voice broke the silence like a gentle wave lapping the shore. "You're going to be okay, Jay. We're both here." The vulnerability in his voice cut deep, highlighting the chasm of time lost between their relationship. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were standing at the precipice of something monumental, a crossroads where fear tangled with hope and love. And then, as if sensing our presence, Jay's fingers twitched slightly beneath my grip. The brother and I exchanged glances, an unspoken promise to remain strong in the face of uncertainty. Yet, just as the moment began to breathe life into our solemn vigil, a commotion erupted outside the room. A loud crash followed by a flurry of medical staff hurried past, urgency painting their faces with panic. My heart dropped, an ominous feeling clawing at my insides. "What's happening?" I asked, voicing the surge of dread unfurling within me. The nurse exchanged a glance with another team member who rushed by, her expression strained. "Just a moment, we need to assess something." The room felt like it was closing in on us, the possibility of losing him again starting to swell. "Jay, please," I whispered, squeezing his hand tighter, "we need you. You can't leave us now." His brother stood resolute at my side, eyes filled with determination. Just as I thought I could steady my breath, the door swung wide open again, and a doctor stepped in, looking harried. "We have a situation. We're going to need to move Jay back into surgery," he announced, urgency lacing each word. Heart pounding, I felt all hope teeter on a knife edge, a suffocating fear flooding my chest. I turned to Jay, searching for some sign, some flicker of the man I knew. The desperate wait was far from over, and as they prepared to wheel him away, the world felt as if it was being pulled apart. "Jay!" I cried out, my voice breaking under the weight of the unknown. "Please hold on." With those final words hanging in the air, he was wheeled away, leaving us in the brutal silence of uncertainty, my heart a cacophony of fear and longing, a distant call back to the warmth of laughter and hope we once shared, now slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. The silence that engulfed the waiting room after Jay was wheeled away felt like a heavy shroud, one that smothered the hope we had glimpsed just moments before. My heart pounded with the rhythm of uncertainty, a drum that steadied my resolve yet echoed with impending dread. The brother, now pale and unsteady, sank into the chair beside me, the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. "Will he be okay?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper, a fragile thread hanging in the air. "I don't know," I answered honestly, my own heart shredding at the thought. The room echoed with the distant sounds of hurried footsteps and hushed whispers, a stark reminder of the stakes that lay just beyond our reach. "I thought once he made it through surgery would have some relief," he said, struggling to keep his voice steady. But now his words faltered, the fear palpable in his eyes, as they glistened with unshed tears. I reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder, desperate to offer whatever comfort I could. "You're not alone in this," I said, admiring the way vulnerability shone through his pain, wanting to share the load of anguish we both carried. Minutes melted into an eternity as we waited, each tick of the clock amplifying our anxieties, until at last a nurse appeared. Her expression bore the weight of compassion, a small flame of hope flickering amidst the shadows lurking in the corners of our minds. "Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" she offered gently, her voice like a balm against our raw nerves. "Just any news on Jay?" I managed to ask, my own throat tightened with fear. "Nothing yet. But his doctor will be here shortly," she promised before retreating into the hall, leaving us once again in the stifling silence. The distance between us felt monumental, yet in that moment of shared uncertainty, a connection sparked between USA's silent promise that we wouldn't let the fear of the unknown tear us apart. "Do you remember the last time Jay and I hung out?" he said suddenly, a smile breaking through the haze of despair. "We went to that ridiculous carnival. He made me ride the Ferris wheel. I hate heights." A soft chuckle escaped my lips, the warmth of the shared memory wrapping around us like a fragile shield against our grief. "I can picture it. Jay would have been teasing you the whole time," I replied, my voice imbued with the fervor of nostalgia. "Yes. He said I was being a coward. He laughed so hard when I screamed. I almost fell out of the seat." His eyes sparkled with a mixture of mirth and sorrow, a potent reminder of what we had to lose. As the moments passed, we exchanged memories of Jay, letting fragments of his spirit weave through our pain and fill the chasm left by uncertainty. Each story breathed life into our surroundings, tiny pinpricks of light illuminating the darkness growing in our hearts. But our brief respite was interrupted by the unexpected sound of footsteps nearing. The doctor appeared, weary but with a resolute expression, and I could feel my heart stutter, caught between hope and dread. "Ladies and gentlemen, I wish I had better news," he began, his voice steady yet tinged with gravity. "Jay's situation is more complicated than we initially thought. We found that the internal bleeding has increased, and we'll need to keep him under close observation after this next surgery. The next 24 hours will be crucial." The brother's shoulders slumped, his spirit visibly deflating under the weight of the news. I felt my own heart fall, each beat echoing the uncertainty that lingered in the air like a storm cloud. "Will he survive?" I asked, my voice trembling with the desperation of wanting to believe yet teaching myself to prepare for the worst. The doctor sighed, a gravity to his response. "We can't predict outcomes. We'll do everything in our power to stabilize him." Hope fled, leaving only the bitter taste of fear behind. "What do we do?" I asked, pleading for guidance. For a path through the darkness, we found ourselves enveloped. "Be there for him," the doctor advised, his expression softening just a touch. "Your presence can keep the connection strong. Talk to him. Even when he's unconscious, he can hear you." The brother nodded, his lips pressed into a thin line as he focused on the doctor's words. "Thank you," he managed to say, a quiet determination flickering in his eyes. "Keep the faith," the doctor added before he turned to leave, but something halted him midway. He glanced back, lingering for a split second, as if debate raged behind his eyes. I know this is a painful time, but I want you to know that, sometimes, miracles happen too. As the doctor stepped away, I turned to the brother, feeling the echoes of our earlier connection wrap us tightly again. Miracles, maybe we need to believe in them, I murmured, clinging to that fragile thread of hope. That was when the lights flickered, a strange occurrence in the otherwise sterile atmosphere. We exchanged bewildered glances just as a low rumble reverberated through the building. Was that an earthquake? I asked, anxiety creeping into my voice. But the brother shook his head, and just as he opened his mouth to respond, the lights blacked out completely. A wrenching darkness engulfed us. Panic surged. The world felt as if it was crumbling along with our hopes, casting us into an inky abyss. An alarming bustle of voices enveloped us, chaos igniting in the hospital as alarms blared and nurses rushed past. "Stay calm. Stay calm." I heard a voice calling out, but all around us was disarray, a frantic heartbeat of human fear. J. I screamed, my heart racing. "We have to find him." But how could we navigate the darkness? How could we push through the panic to reach him before it was too late? With that thought hanging heavy in the air, we bolted into the tumult, clenching our hands together, resolved to fight for the connection we desperately needed to maintain, whatever it took. The darkness clung to us like a blanket, and I could feel the overwhelming pulse of chaos around us. Alarms blared, punctuating the air with distressing urgency. Everyone around us seemed enmeshed in their own fight against fear, and yet, in my desperation, I felt small, a mere flicker in a storm. "We need to find Jay," the brother shouted, his voice strained with urgency, as he tugged me towards the direction we had last seen the nursing station, but even that direction felt obscured, warped by confusion. I squinted, trying to adjust my eyes to the absence of light, the sounds of hurried footsteps and cracking voices confirming the frantic state of the world around us. The comforting smell of antiseptic had morphed into something suffocating. "Over here!" A voice sliced through the chaos, and we darted towards it, weaving between frantic nurses and the occasional disoriented patient. My heart raced in tandem with every step, fighting against the suffocating dread that Jay might be unreachable. The strobe of emergency lights flickered on, weak bursts illuminating faces stretched in concern, echoing our own terror. As we reached the nursing station, I barely noticed the barrage of questions thrown at the nurses. Their professional calm wavered under the pressure of the chaos surrounding them. "Where is Jay?" the brother pleaded, desperation painting his words. One of the nurses, her brow furrowed with concern, met his gaze. "We are moving all patients to the backup generators. His room will be secured there shortly. Can we see him?" I pressed, the desperation coating my voice. She hesitated for a moment, a deep sigh escaping her lips. "As soon as we can. For now, I need you both to stay clear and remain calm." "I promise. We're doing everything we can." We exchanged helpless glances as she moved to assist another patient, and I could feel the distinction between hope and despair almost palpable in the air, as if we were trapped on a tightrope stretched over an abyss, each step precarious. A subtle moment of kindness interrupted our spiraling worries. Here, an elderly man beside us reached into his jacket, producing a small flashlight, his hands trembling slightly. "Take this. It might help you find your way." "Thank you," the brother said, a mix of sincerity and grief filling his tone. We took the flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness in front of us, a flicker of light in an otherwise bleak world. "Let's keep moving," I urged. "We're getting closer." Navigating through the hospital, the voices of frantic staff mingled with the echoing beeps of medical devices struggling to maintain stability. I felt unsteady on my feet as we finally found our footing, the old man's flashlight guiding us until we reached the stairwell. "Down?" I questioned hesitantly, glimpsing the dim light below that hinted there might be a safe haven to be found. "Yes, there are emergency generators down there," the brother said, determination reigniting in his eyes. With a nod, we descended the stairs, the flashlight beam flickering across the concrete wall, illuminating the worn numbers marking each level. Yet, as we reached the bottom, my senses alerted me to something out of place. A slant of shadow, deeper than the surrounding darkness, tugged at the corner of my eye. A faint whisper echoed through the air, not from the chaos above, but from that very shadow, calling to us in quiet desperation. "Did you hear that?" I asked, heart pounding as I turned in its direction. "I did," he replied, peering into the black void. "What if it's—" Before we gathered courage to follow the sound, the door to the generator room burst open. A nurse, panic etched across her features, rushed out, her voice urgent yet hushed. "We're evacuating the lower level. Something is wrong with the power. You need to come with me. Now, wait!" The brother shouted back, eyes narrowing in resolve. "What about Jay? We need to stay here. There's no time," she insisted, glancing back into the room as if to gauge the darkness swallowing it up. "We have to prioritize patient safety." A conflict broke within us. The gravity of her warning clashed with the desperation to find Jay. "We can't just leave him," I asserted, shaking my head. "Please," the nurse begged, her face a mask of fear. "There are aftershocks. We need to get everyone to safety, all of us." The reference to aftershock sent tremors of panic through me, and my heart was torn in two, tethered between duty and love. Just as we hesitated, a sudden low rumble reverberated beneath our feet, echoing the nurse's warning. The lights flickered once more, and the sound of shattering glass echoed from the lower depths, a harbinger of impending collapse. "We have to go," she shouted, and my heart wrenched at the thought of leaving Jay behind. Before I could utter a protest, the brother stepped forward, his expression resolute. "Take us to him," he commanded the nurse, every fiber of his being matching the strength of his words. Fear rippling through me, I tightened my grip on his hand, knowing now that whatever awaited us in that darkness could hold secrets we never imagined and a choice we might never be ready to face. Each step felt like both salvation and a potential finality as we plunged into the uncertainty of the unknown, a realm littered with potential loss and flickering, fragile hope. We pressed forward, the nurse leading the way with a sense of urgency that stirred my insides. The tremors continued beneath our feet, unsettling the very core of my being. The air felt thick with residue from fear and uncertainty, and every instinct screamed for us to turn back. Yet, the brothers' unwavering resolve kept us tethered to the moment, propelling us toward that dim light ahead, the haven we desperately sought for. "Jay, what if he's hurt?" The words slipped from my mouth before I could stop them, an echo of my inner turmoil. I could feel the weight of my worry bearing down like leaden chains. "I won't let anything happen to him," the brother replied, his voice steady but strained. "Well, find him. Just hold on." As we rounded a corner, the nurse stopped abruptly, flinging open another door, and we spilled into a large room filled with a low hum of machinery. The glow from emergency lights flickered across a chaotic tableau, doctors and nurses working frantically, some tending to patients, others barking orders into radios. "Jay," I called, scanning the faces of those around me, desperate for a glimpse of familiar features. The brother moved closer to the nurse, his questions cascading like water, as he sought any news of our friend. But I couldn't sit idle, my insides twisted. "Where is he?" I pleaded, clutching a nearby railing as if it could anchor me to logic amid the emotional storm. "Please see." Doctor caught my eye, his brow slick with sweat. "We're doing our best. If he's here, well, locate him. I need you to trust us." Trust felt like a fragile word, one that could shatter under the weight of the unknown. The atmosphere was electric with anxiety, and I felt raw, exposed. As the machinery whirred and beeped around me, I turned my gaze to the brother, his face taut with concern, eyes darting through the chaos, searching for a sign. Then a soft voice broke through my spiral. "Hey." I turned to find the elderly man again, his kind eyes holding a glimmer of reassurance. "You have to stay strong. Positivity can be more powerful than any medicine in circumstances like these. His words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, and for a moment, I could breathe. I nodded gratefully, appreciating the unexpected kindness in this chaos. But the calm didn't last. Another rumble surged through the floor beneath us. It was sharper this time, louder, and with it came a wave of muffled screams from the hallway. Panic erupted again, folding back into the edges of my heart like an unfurling bud of dread. We must evacuate. The doctor bellowed, his voice threatening to drown beneath the chaos. All non-essential personnel moved to the nearest exit. Jay. I spun around, glancing toward the door we had entered, desperate for a way out, a way back. What if he's still in the hallway? We can't leave him. I could feel my heart racing as I looked imploringly at the brother. I won't abandon him, he vowed, determination hardening his features. We can't get separated. We can't lose anyone else. Come on. The elderly man was suddenly at my side again, his heartache evident, a quiet strength radiating from him. We can find a way. Let's stay together. My mind whirled. Could we risk it? The thought of losing Jay, of anything happening to him, sent icy tendrils wrapping around my thoughts. But if we leave, if there are aftershocks, then we're all finished. The doctor's urgency had transformed into almost tangible fear. We need to move. Now, each heartbeat echoed as fear wrestled against instinct. But then, I remembered that flicker of light, the warmth of our previous encounters. We can't give up on him, I whispered to the brother, feeling the pull of connection. All right, he replied, a glimmer of resolve igniting in his eyes, as he scanned our surroundings. Well, check each room. Well, find him. Stay close. As we delved further into the chaos, I couldn't shake the feeling that something more was at play. The fear reverberating through the walls felt different now. Something was off, and the shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally long. I squeezed the flashlight, glancing down darkness with fervor. Every murmured prayer, every whispered hope felt like a thread that bound us to Jay, a lifeline tethered through the suffocating storm encroaching upon our every step. Then, just as we reached the far end of the corridor, a loud crack shattered the air. The lights flickered violently, and the ground bucked beneath us. My heart leaped into my throat. In the chaos, I saw the door to the stairwell flung open, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. My breath caught as I squinted. There, illuminated briefly in the strobe of emergency light, was a pale face I recognized all too well. It was Jay. Help! He gasped, reaching out toward us, and just as quickly, the lights died completely. Darkness enveloped us, a blanket of uncertainty smothering everything around. Before I could move, before I could scream his name, the loud rumble shook the floor again, and the world tilted at an alarming angle. I couldn't see, couldn't think. I felt the brother's hand slip from mine, and the air exploded into chaos. I clutched at the darkness, my heart pounding violently against my chest as the last flicker of light faded away, swallowed by the void. Cold dread enveloped me in the utter darkness. It felt as though the very air had turned against us. I staggered blindly, desperation coursing through my veins. My heart thudded in my ears, drowning out the muffled chaos behind me. A million horrifying scenarios raced through my mind. A sudden rush of images flashed. Jay trapped, alone, helpless against a cruel world, while we crumbled in uncertainty. Jay. My voice came out as a hoarse whisper, swallowed by the eerie silence that replaced the scattered sounds of chaos. He had been so close, and yet, here I was, alone in the black void. I reached out, searching for any sign, any trace of the brother or the elderly man, but the emptiness was palpable, a visceral reminder of how quickly everything could unravel. Suddenly, the ground buckled again, and a shriek pierced the silence, followed by a cacophony of crashing metal and shattering glass. My instincts kicked in, and I crouched low, drawing my knees to my chest, trying to protect myself against the chaos swirling everywhere. I inhaled sharply, a scent like burnt rubber invading my senses, mingling with my rising panic. "Focus," I murmured, grounding myself. I had to find Jay. I began to feel along the wall, fingers brushing against the cold, wet surface. Instinct urged me to move, to claw my way back to him. With purpose, I pushed off the wall, inching forward through the impenetrable night. A wave of despair washed over me. I can't lose him, I thought fiercely, a rebellion igniting within me against the inevitable. Then, like a lighthouse breaking through a storm, a soft glow flickered in the distance. I strained to see, heart racing as I stumbled toward it. With every step, the light grew stronger, revealing shapes of scattered debris, a twisted piece of furniture, and was that a shoe? My stomach nodded. It felt like the remnants of lives once lived, now discarded amidst a storm of fate. J. I cried once more, louder this time, pushing through what felt like an invisible barrier. I prided myself on courage, one that could outshine fear, yet I felt it gnawing, clawing at my mind. A slight motion caught my eye, shadows shifting. "Is someone there?" A fragile voice called, breaking through my anguish. "Yes." "Where are you?" I shouted, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. The light flickered in response, and I stumbled upon a smashed doorframe, realizing it was the door to the stairwell. My heart leapt. Jay might have been able to escape. With renewed urgency, I continued moving, the light guiding my path. I squeezed through the debris and gasped as the door creaked open, revealing a flight of stairs. A face emerged at the top, illuminated by the pallid glow of an emergency exit, fear contorting the features. "Help!" The person was a nurse, frantically waving us over. "Get up here. We're evacuating. Everyone else is below." Great, another sign. But what about Jay? Then, as if sensing my thoughts, a shadow shifted behind her. The brother. Relief crashed over me like a wave as I scrambled up the steps 2 at a time. "Where's Jay?" I demanded breathlessly, the hope within threatening to shatter under Dread's heavy grasp. "He was heading down. He said to keep going," the nurse exclaimed, eyes wide with urgency. "We need to move before another aftershock." I hardly registered her warning, the panic coiling tighter. "We can't leave him. He's down there." I turned toward the doorway, a desert of uncertainty stretching in my mind. "Please!" The brother's voice shattered my hesitation, raw and fervent. It was undeniable. He had a spark of conviction ignited by faith. "We have to go, but I promise we'll search for him once we're safe. We can't be trapped again." And just like that, the choice loomed larger than life. Abandon the light, the very thing that guided us, only to chase shadows deeper into a darkness threatening to swallow us whole. I hesitated, torn between the instinctual urge to flee and the visceral connection that urged me not to leave Jay behind. In that moment, the world shrank to the internal battle brewing within me. "I can't go without him," I whispered, tears suddenly brimming. The memories flooded back, laughter, moments of triumph, the camaraderie forged over shared fears, and my heart cracked, fissures fracturing beneath the weight of impending loss. "Stay with me," the brother urged, reaching out as if my hand could tether us to safety. His grip steadied me, urging an anchor amidst the tumult of emotions. Suddenly, the chaos roared to life again. Another tremor rippled through the building, sending shivers down my spine. A piece of the ceiling crumpled next to us, sending shards of dust swirling into the air. With a heavy heart and dizzying fear, the decision was made. I took a deep breath, allowing tears to fall freely, and turned away from the door. "Okay, let's go," I whispered, clinging to the hope that we would find Jay soon. But as we rushed up, panic gripped me anew. There was something off in the air, a shimmer of unease that clung to my skin, as if the very universe conspired against our escape. When we reached the rooftop, the view revealed a panorama of devastation. The city skyline was fractured, buildings bowing under the weight of the ruins that surrounded us. It was a moment suspended in disbelief, And then I felt a rush of adrenaline. Life was clawing to exist despite the odds. Like a punch to the gut, I realized the truth. As we fled upward, our very survival marked the cruel reality that Jay remained below alone, vulnerable, and fighting for an unseen day. A shadow leapt from the corner of my eye, and I turned sharply to find the elderly man rushing toward us, breathless and frantic. "I saw him!" he cried, voice laced with urgency. "He was just below. They took him down. We need to go back." My breath hitched. Behind him, from the far recesses of my memory, a distant roar ignited, drumming against my heart. All of our choices would suddenly converge, and I realized this was nowhere close to being over. Despair and hope locked in an eternal dance, and behind him, behind us, the dark depths we thought we had left behind pulsated with an ominous life of its own. The rooftop felt like an oasis above a sinking city, yet the air was thick with unanswered questions and the weight of shallow breaths. I stared at the elderly man, confusion mixing with a shred of hope that twisted my gut into knots. "What do you mean they took him down?" I pressed, fear washing over me in waves. His expression was taut with worry, eyes darting as if they could see beyond the chaos, beyond the mangled remains of what used to be secure lives. "The lower floors, they have things, people who were supposed to keep us safe," he stammered, trying to catch his breath. "But they're not what they seem." Jay was trying to help someone. He was down there helping. "You have to understand, we can't leave him. They might." I felt sick at the thought that twisted the air heavier, like a storm cloud ready to burst. The brother moved closer to me, grasping my arm lightly, a gentle reminder that we were still anchored in this reality, even as my heart yearned to dive back into darkness. "We can't just go down there," he whispered. "What if it's a trap? What if there's no way back?" "No," the elderly man interrupted, his age-worn hands trembling with conviction. "If he's down there, we must try. He could be in danger. They're not all trapped. Some of them can still help. We can't lose him." The urgency in his words sent tremors through my core. How many people had become shadows of their former selves on this very roof, through choices made in desperation? A chill snaked down my spine as I remembered what we had left behind: laughter and warmth, only to be met by this brutal reality. But would chasing this visceral hope be worth the risk, or lead to an even darker despair? "When," the brother's voice trembled with uncertainty, "when did you see him last?" "Just moments ago," the man insisted, wringing his hands together, bringing life back to my fading confidence. "I saw him rush to a lower entrance, helping another. He knew they were in trouble." My heart caught in my throat, a spark of fear igniting into a flame. "He wanted to get out," I muttered under my breath, feeling helpless and terrified. "We left him there. What if it's already too late?" The thought clawed at my insides. "Then we have no time to waste." The brother's words snapped back, a lifeline pushing me forward. "We have to trust him. Together, we can help." The elderly man gestured toward the stairwell, a dark maw beckoning at the edge of our collective fear. "There's no escape other than down. If we don't act now, the very fabric of our own belief might unravel. It's all or nothing." Before my heart could reach its chaotic crescendo, the decision sat heavy on my chest, dragging me down with it. I nodded, each gesture small and deliberate, yet laden with the gravity of impending choice. "Okay," I breathed, feeling my pulse quicken. "We go together." As we converged at the stairwell door, I felt powerless against the overwhelming rush of anxiety and determination that churned within. The laughter of my brother seemed a distant, fading memory, replaced by the heart-wrenching cries for help that echoed in my mind. My shoulders slumped slightly, leading me to wonder if courage was simply the skin we wore over our raw fears. With each step downward, the sense of security unraveled further, shadows enveloping us like a shroud pulled tighter with every beat of my heart. Down the dim corridor, the chaos of anxiety began to morph into recognition. I was no longer just a sister. I was a fighter, willing to risk all that I had for fleeting hope. but with every footfall that descended, a chilling realization gnawed at the edges of my resolve. If Jay had been fighting below, would he still be alive? The urgency of my emotions threatened to split my focus, and I could feel the thin tether to hope tighten dangerously. Past the debris of a once familiar space, echoes of the past emerged in flashes of memory. The moments spent playing games, laughing at inside jokes, how could they dissolve to nothing at the whim of fate? The deeper we ventured, the more vivid the remnants of our collective past became, and the more tangible Jay's absence. Felt beside me. I don't like this, uttered the brother, hesitation slipping through the cracks of his voice, but he pressed forward, bolstered by unfaltering resolve. Then, unexpectedly, a faint glow flickered ahead, a muted hue spilling around a corner. My heart leapt. Could it be him? Or was the darkness merely playing tricks on my weary mind? "Jay!" I shouted, desperation coloring the air around us, thick and suffocating. The glow revealed an open space, a room swathed in shadows, where the glimmer of metallic objects lay scattered like fallen stars, trapped by the weight of something unseen. The air prickled with static, and I paused, breath hitching uneasily. Then, shock pierced my very soul as I came upon the scene before me. Figures bound by despair stood at the edge of the circle of flickering light, faces contorted in fear. My heart raced, and in a harsh whisper, I sought the truth. "Where is he?" Just as I spoke, a figure emerged from the darker recesses of the room, and time slowed to a fractal moment suspended in uncertainty. The face grew recognizable, eyes locking onto mine. Yet a new storm of emotions washed over me as Jay stood there alive, but surrounded by others, each faced with the overwhelming burden of their choices. His expression betrayed an odd mix of defiance and deep concern. Then, everything snapped back into motion as a voice rang out. "You shouldn't have come here." I turned back to the shadowy figure standing behind him, eyes glimmering with an otherworldly intelligence. Choosing to believe in hope often leads to consequences you cannot imagine. The chill that pierced my spine echoed the words spoken through the void of fear, a chilling reality that buried itself in my core. And with that haunting promise, I realized that whatever had led us down this path might just be the beginning of an even more tangled journey, one that would test our bonds in ways we could never fathom. As the shadows shifted, I sensed an ominous fate closing in, my heart racing on the precipice of a new revelation. This fight was far from over, and the true struggle lay just ahead. The air in that dimly lit room hung thick with tension, a fragile silence interrupted only by the faint hum of machines sustaining life. My heart pounded as I locked eyes with Jay, the very essence of strength amidst uncertainty, still standing amid a crowd that registered confusion and fear. The shadows in the corner seemed to writhe, and my determination crumbled slightly at the thought of what could come next. "Jay," I breathed, pushing forward, driven by a hurricane of emotions. The collective burden of finding him ignited a fire within me, yet as I stepped between the figures gathered around, I could see the weariness etched on their faces, the shared despair drifting like smoke around us. While I fought against the tightening spiral of anxiety coursing through my veins, the soft glow illuminated us like a fragile beacon against the night. Jay's presence electrified the air, and somehow, even through the chaos, a thread of connection wrapped around my heart, weaving together our fragile fates. "Don't come any closer." The voice erupted from the shadowy figure looming behind Jay, slicing through the air with a frigid edge. "You don't understand what you're stepping into." Every instinct screamed danger. The urge to flee clashed violently with the yearning to reach out, to hold on tighter, to promise I wouldn't let go. But beneath the surface of fear lay something else, a desperate need to fight for connection, for truth, for hope against a backdrop of darkness that threatened to consume us all. Jay raised his hands, palms open in a gesture of peace. "Please, don't let fear dictate our actions. We must bring everyone together, bear witness to this moment." His voice was steady, unwavering, resonating with a deep-rooted faith that surprised me. It stirred something fierce within me, the realization that through the layers of darkness, light could still pierce the fabric of our reality. Together, I echoed, the word igniting a warmth within my chest. That's what we need: unity, connection. I don't know if we can trust anyone here, the brother murmured anxiously beside me. The flickering shadows reflected the uncertainty within his gaze, but I knew in my heart that our only option lay ahead. I could feel J.S.'s presence like a balm. He needed me as much as I needed him to believe in this fragile hope that shimmered above us all. Maybe the only truth we need right now is the courage to face our fears, I countered softly, stepping closer again, emboldened by a shared spirit ignited by love. If we stand together, we can rise from this. Suddenly, the crowd began nodding in hesitant agreement, eyes seeking answers, connection spark igniting, and each face turned toward the possibility of collective strength. J.S.'s expression softened, the weight of conflict swirling away slowly, camaraderie replacing tension. But what if the shadows are more powerful than we can withstand? The shadowed figure spat, glancing at each figure gathered around like a predator sizing up prey. What if you are all just pawns in this game? I felt anger blossom within me at the accusation, but I quelled it. What if we're more than that? What if we've already proven that strength lies in our connections? The words poured from my soul, wells of buried emotions cascading freely. The crowd shifted, newfound resolve slowly building against the pervasive fear. I saw determination lace through their features, the shadows flickering in response as waves of courage converged, binding us like a web woven in sacred truth. You are not powerless, Jay stated boldly, his eyes alight with conviction. We are not alone. We can fight this if we believe in one another. The shadow around us shrank back, as if caught off guard by the sheer audacity of dreams igniting before them. And in that moment, hope bloomed. The presence of love rippled through the air, palpable and strong, illuminating the recesses of our fears. The figure's expression faltered, uncertainty creeping into their stance. You think hope can change the course of fate? That connection will free you? Yes, Jay answered firmly, his voice unyielding. Because love is the most powerful force in this cosmos. The collective murmurs of affirmation rose around us, like a chorus encouraging our bravery to soar higher, break free from the shackles of despair. Together, I echoed once more, the word reverberating around the room, binding us in a mission that transcended our individual struggles. In that moment, something shifted in the atmosphere, and I sensed the shadows retreating, mere phantoms of the fears that had once shackled us so tightly. The emotional tension loosening like heavy chains dropped into the depths of still water. I could feel the warmth of a long-lost hope pulsating through our veins, the flickering light resolving into vibrant colors that painted our world anew. But then the tremor launched through the ground again, the room vibrating violently, and our collective hands clasped tightly together instinctively. We need to move, I cried out, my voice cracking, fear entwined with an urgent need to act. Our unity had given us strength, a testament to the power of connection, even amidst darkness. Together, we turned away from the shadows, moving not only as a collective force, but also fueled by a shared desire to reclaim the light. I could feel my heart racing in tandem with J.S.'s presence as we navigated the room, knocking on doors of fate that shook beneath our resolve. And then, with one last burst of collective energy, we charged toward the exit, spurred forward by the courage that had awakened within each of us. Our hearts beat as one, pushing against despair, to reach the world beyond, a world awaiting us, filled with light, an opportunity to embrace the power of love and hope. As we burst through the doors into the cool night air, the city greeted us under a tapestry of stars shimmering above, a reminder that even amid darkness, we could embrace the dawn of a new beginning. We did it! I exclaimed, heart swelling with an electrifying sense of triumph that surged through our collective effort. J.S.'s gaze found mine, shared meaning lacing our moment in a binding embrace, a resolution whispering instantaneously between us. In the quiet lull of victory, we realized that this was not merely a battle we fought outside but a journey that had transformed us, ignited by the flames of connection forged through our deepest struggles. Yet as we stood united beneath the vast expanse of the night sky, a shadow danced at the periphery, never far enough to escape unscathed. I understood now that our journey would continue, woven into the very fabric of our lives already altered forever. And as we continued feasting on hope, laughter breaking through the lingering fear, I felt J.S. warm grip envelop my fingers, the weight of the ordeal now replaced with blossoming possibilities of love. Together, I murmured, my heart finally full with acceptance and purpose, this is just the beginning. In that moment, as love surged between us against the backdrop of vulnerability, I knew with unwavering clarity that in this fragile world, connected in spirit, we had truly found our way home. A flicker of stars above seemed to dance in agreement, and as the winds of our resilience wrapped around us, the last whisper echoed reminding us of the most profound truth. Sometimes, when you lose everything, you might just find everything you've ever wanted.